There's a very famous quote in chess that states you can't necessarily win the game in the opening, but you can definitely lose it. And this is one of my favourite chess quotes because it demonstrates just how important it is to get your opening right. Like, it is going to set you up for your middle game, for your end game, and you need to put yourself in the best position possible to win that game. So in today's video we have more of an instructive video whereby I'm going to show you guys the top 5 openings that I think you should be playing at an intermediate level. Now, I'm not going to go crazy in depth in theory. I'm going to talk a little bit about each opening and then show you a game I've played where I've implemented, the pros and cons of the opening, and I can talk you guys through all the moves and that sort of thing. So hopefully it's quite instructive for you guys. Hopefully you learn something, and if you do enjoy it, guys, come on, please smash that like button. Please do subscribe. I would greatly appreciate that. I would love you forever. Coming in at number 1 though, guys, okay, we're literally just going to jump straight into this. Or I guess you could say, coming in at number 5 is the Scotch opening. Okay, now if you don't know what this is, it's whereby white plays e4, black plays e5, knight f3, and knight c6. Okay, so this position is reached... I can't give you a percentage, but I'm going to say like 80% of get. Like, it's so common, man. Like, because it leads you into so many different options. Like, I don't know, a Roy Lopez, an Italian, a Scotch, a Ponzi. Like, there's so many options here. But the Scotch is actually where you play d4. So it's a very aggressive approach which can catch a number of your opponents off guard. I mean, it can get very confusing from here. Like, black has a couple of options, for instance, obviously taking this pawn with either the pawn or the knight, or just developing their bishop to say like bishop d6, reinforcing this pawn a little bit further. It looks very weird, the move bishop d6, because you are kind of blocking this pawn, which then is blocking your light square bishop from getting out. So I would definitely recommend dealing with this issue on d4 before you start playing any other moves. Which my opponent did do. They opted to take with the pawn, and now here you can take with the knight, and if black takes back with the knight, well, this is actually the first inaccuracy of the game, because now you can take back with the queen, and it is so difficult for black to target this queen in the centre. They don't have a knight that they can put on the board to attack the queen anymore. So you just have like a god queen in the centre of the board. Obviously, they could play a move like pawn to c5, for example, but then after like queen d3, it's just absolutely fine. There are lines where you long castle in the Scotch, and it's just so attacking. So here my opponent plays this move queen to f6, which is actually a move. This is played at a top level, and here you just want to either kick the queen away with the pawn or just drop back. Queen goes over to b6, offering another queen trade. I then played the move bishop to e3. So we finally get a queen trade, but already you can see how in this Scotch opening, I've completely overran the centre of the board and my development is far ahead. Like, I'm already stopping this knight from jumping over to f6. Like, they literally cannot escape this way. And if the knight was to come over here, well, then they block their bishop in. I clearly can't draw arrows for some reason. But yeah, it's just very difficult for black to play a move here. My opponent in this position opted to give this check. So I just blocked with the knight, developing yet another piece. They play c5, attacking my bishop. So just drop the bishop back to e3, of course. They took the knight, damaging my pawn structure very minorly. I mean, at this stage of the game, it doesn't really matter because it's like, well, the rook can come over to the open b file. I mean, you're not blocking my bishop at all. Like, my development is still very natural. They play the move b6, of course, defending this pawn. I then develop my own bishop. They play knight to e7, preparing castling. I short castle. They fianchetto, and then I lash out with the move a4. So I'm looking just to attack now with my bishop pair in the centre. Still looking to just attack. They develop their knight. I then take the pawn. They take back, obviously. I then play rook to b1, which is given as a mistake. They take, I take back, so I do lose the bishop pair, but I still feel like this position's pretty winnable for white. Bishop goes to c6, I play bishop to c4, they short castle, and then I play rook f2, which is a little bit of a mistake because of the move b5, which just takes more space for black. And it's starting to get a little bit uncomfortable because these two pawns can really sort of attack these pawns, and it's not looking good. Luckily, they don't find it, and they move their rook to d8. I then double stack. My opponent plays d5, lashing out in the centre. So I take en passant. I'm a man of culture. I mean, it's the only option. Rook goes to d7, maybe looking to double stack, or in fact just defend this f7 pawn. Rook goes to b1. b5 is played. I take, they take, I then take, and now it's like, well, I'm up 2 pawns. The eval bar gives it as completely equal because after they take back, it's just a draw because of my double stack pawns. But it's not very simple to play. I'm still up 2 pawns. They give a check, so I of course block. They take, I take back, and now they just don't have enough counterplay. I'm up 2 pawns. They shouldn't have traded off the rooks. They bring their rook over, and now that I move my king up, it's like find a move for black. There is literally nothing black can do because I just start pushing my pawns now. I just start pushing my pawns. They go here. I then play rook c8, giving a check. King goes to f7, c7. They go over to g7 for some reason with their king. And now I start marching my king up the board. King to h6. And here I found like a really cool move, and that's the move c4. Very, very important move, because if I was just to move my king up, well then they could keep their rook on this c file, even take my pawn. But if I play c4, now when I march my king up towards this rook, they cannot stay on this c file, so they're going to have to move away, which means I can move and then promote to a queen. Very simple stuff, but it's very effective. Bringing my king up, slide my rook over, and in this position they resign, so I'm just going to make a queen. So that's the first game, guys, with the Scotch. You can see how he just completely overran the centre. It was pretty destructive. Gorgeous game. We convert the win relatively easily. A few bumps along the road, but definitely play the Scotch. Coming in at number 4, we have another opening with the white pieces known as the Ruy Lopez. Now this was actually popularised in like the 1500s, and you still get some very decisive games from it at the absolute top level of chess. So it just shows it's absolutely passed the test of time. Still one of the most played openings. If you don't know it, guys, you have to add this to your repertoire. It starts with e4, e5, knight f3 and knight c6, so very similar to the Scotch. But instead of playing d4 this time, we actually play this move bishop to b5, attacking this knight. And you might be wondering, why are we bringing our bishop out before we develop, for example, our other knight, which is a very common opening principle. The idea is that if we put pressure on this knight and end up capturing it, then this pawn on e5 is now undefended. So there are lines where you can take this knight and then pick up this pawn. So it's a very effective opening, especially at lower levels if they don't know the theory. Obviously, if you know the theory, you still get quite an aggressive game, but it does often tend to be equal. But you can convert these positions relatively comfortably in an endgame if your opponent doesn't know the theory. So my opponent here opted to play d6, which is known as the old Steinitz variation. And so you'll notice now if I were to take the knight, this pawn is still defended but by another pawn. So I play the move d4, which is a very aggressive approach. You're able to short castle in this position, but d4 is also a move. They play bishop to d7, and then I play this move d5. So when the knight moves away to d4, obviously this is given as a mistake, the knight is meant to come over to e7, but I of course have to take this bishop first. If I were to take this knight, for example, I guess it still does work actually because of this, but it's best just to play the most forcing line. So take the bishop with check, so now they are forced to deal with this, and then when I take the knight, they take back, and now my queen can capture this pawn in the centre. So after 8 moves, I'm already up a pawn. So already such a clear advantage in the Ruy Lopez, because my opponent wasn't 100% certain on the theory. So a really, really strong opening, guys. You have to add this to your repertoire. I will show you the rest of the game. We get knight f6. I short castle. My opponent long castles, which again is a mistake because I can just take on a7. They play queen to b5. Also, would you believe that this game is played at like 1500 elo? In this game, I'm 1550. 1515, sorry. And my opponent is 1488. Like, it just doesn't look like that at all, does it? I play knight to c3. They play queen b6, offering a queen trade. So I, of course, take, because now look at my opponent's pawn structure around their king. It just looks so unsafe. I develop my bishop to obviously attack this very weak pawn on b6. They play king to c7, so I give a check. They obviously cannot step forwards because the pawn blocks, so they have to leave the defense of this pawn. So they go back to b8. I then pick up the pawn, attacking the rook. Rook comes over, c3, obviously just defends the pawn on the c-file. Knight jumps into e4. I then attack the knight with my rook. They play knight to c5. Good little outpost for them, but after b4 they have to move the knight again. And you guys know the saying, a knight on the rim is very dim. I then play bishop to d4. Opponent plays f6. We get rook to e3. King slides over to a8, which looks just so strange, doesn't it? And then I double stack. And it's not easy for our opponent here because they can't move this bishop here, so they can't defend my rooks from infiltrating over here. Because if this bishop comes here, I'd obviously just take. So the bishop is trapped. They play b6. I then bring my rook onto this 8th rank. They take, I take. And now this bishop and this rook aren't in the game at all, because if you ever move this bishop, I'm going to take your rook. So there's just nothing that this bishop can do. I then just pick up this pawn, which is a beautiful little sacrifice, because obviously, again, if you take, I take the rook. So just picking up a free pawn. They move their king over. I slide back. Their king slides back. c4 is played. h5. c5, they take, I take with the bishop, very forcing line, they take with the knight, I then take with the pawn, and obviously again if they pick up this pawn, I'm going to take their rook, so they still can't take the pawn, and they just have so many pieces that aren't involved in the game, and I slowly manoeuvre my knight, if you'll notice, to the attack of this bishop, so that when they move their king, I can just pick up the bishop, they take, I take, and I'm up 6 points of material, because I'm up a knight, and 3 pawns. Like, this is so over. They play king to b5, I play d6, they slide up, I slide my pawn up to d7, they play king to c7, and then I play c6. And you might be thinking that's such a stupid move they'll just take, but then I make a queen. So it's not a stupid move at all. They just play g5. I then play this move, knight to e6, attacking the king, but the main idea is, of course, to defend this d8 square, I should say, sorry. So I can just make a queen on my next move, and my opponent resigns. So you guys will notice I never really earned my advantage in the Ruy Lopez. They just sort of gifted it to me. I didn't really have to do anything. Again, this opening has absolutely passed the test of time. Please, please add it to your repertoire, guys. So, coming in at number 3, we actually have a variation of the Italian, okay? So the Italian, our opponent, of course, plays e4 and e5. And I thought I'd show you a game from the black perspective, because it's all been white so far, so we've got to go with some black openings. Bishop c4, knight c6, and then after the move knight f3, this is known as the Italian game, where the knight's on f3, you have a pawn in the centre, and a very active bishop. So it's a very scary opening, you're going to face it a lot. You guys are probably familiar with the fried liver attack, so that's actually in this. It's obviously where you put so much pressure on this with the knight and bishop. I then play bishop to c5, which is known as the Yocco Piano game. And this is a variation of the Italian, whereby it looks very symmetrical, but there's also so much attacking play for black. So don't just think that I'm going to sit back, defend in this Italian like you would do in most variations. The Yocco Piano is very, very attacking. Our opponent lashes out with the move d4. There are actually lines in this opening whereby they sacrifice a piece on f7, and then like give a check with the knight, bring the queen out, and then pick up this bishop. But it's very, very confusing lines. I take the pawn in the centre with the bishop, and after c3, this is actually a huge mistake, because I can just slide back. And you'll notice our opponent thinks that they have this opening, but they don't. I was about 1400 elo when I played this game. So you'd think this would be quite a high level game, but our opponent completely gets the move order muddled up. And I can actually just take this bishop, because when they give this check, I just slide back to e8. And it's like, why is your queen over here? There's nothing it can do. So my opponent short castles, I play knight f6. Queen goes back to d1, I play d6. Bishop comes out, bishop g4. And it's like, I'm just going to create so much attacking play that it's going to be really difficult for my opponent here. Like, I'm already setting up ideas of like sacking my queen potentially. And after knight b3, I do exactly that. I just completely sacrifice my queen. Because obviously if the king goes to h1, I just take, and then take with the rook and its mate. So they have to take this queen. And then I take back with the rook, not with the bishop giving a check, but with the rook. Because obviously, let's just say they go here, then after the move like bishop to e2, where I attack the queen and also threaten mate here, they have to lose their queen. And again, if they move their queen now, or just develop their knight, which my opponent did do, I have this check, and I just pick up the queen. So we have a queen sacrifice on, I don't even know what move it was, on like move 13 in the Yoko Piano. Like, it just creates so much counter-attacking play, guys. We're up 9 points of material in 17 moves. Like, you guys have to learn this. If you face the Italian a lot, definitely play the Yoko Piano. Our opponent plays knight to c4, I just play king d7, lifting my king. And when they take, it's like, why are you trading off pieces, man? Like, you do not want to be doing that, because it only benefits me. And after king e7, our opponent resigns, because the rook now cannot infiltrate on any of these squares, because my king, of course, protects them. So guys, add the Yoko Piano to your repertoire. So, coming in at number 2, we have the Old Faithful, okay? The Caro-Kann, okay? Our opponent plays e4. We play c6, which looks very strange. Our opponent plays this move knight to f3, and then we play d5. So it's a real battle for the center, like, immediately. They play e5, so we go into, like, this sort of... I guess it's not really an advanced Caro-Kann, because they don't have a pawn on d4 yet. But if they did, this would be known as the Botvinnik-Karls variation, where we have both our d and c pawns on the 5th sort of file. And it's very scary for the opponent, because... how do they stop us from just completely overriding the center? I mean, they make a trade and they double our pawns, but that's not an issue for us in the slightest, because it just means we can further reinforce our d-file, which is very scary. We get our bishop out, our opponent plays d4, so I take this pawn, and you'll notice we no longer have double stacked pawns, so there really was no issue with that. I then play e6, which just opens up my dark square bishop. They develop their queen, I develop the knight, because in the Caro-Kann, especially the advanced variation, you want to look to get your knight onto f5 in most lines, because it just really targets this pawn on d4, and if you can unearth this structure, then it's just over for white, basically. So they play bishop to g5, I just play h6 attacking, they take, so I take back with the bishop, developing another piece. And already, after 12 moves, we have a clear advantage. Our development's better. We clearly have ideas of unearthing this pawn structure in the centre of the board. It's just very scary for white already. I mean, we short castle, and after rook to b1 here, I mean, can you find out why this is a blunder? Can you guys see the move? If you said bishop to f5, very well done, guys. We attack the queen and we attack the rook. I mean... like, this is just resigned territory already, and this is played at 1400 elo, so guys, definitely add this to your repertoire. Like, it's so crushing, like, even at all elos. And obviously there are very famous clips of, like, Hikaru Nakamura saying, like, the Caro-Kann is stupid, but then you also have ideas of Magnus Carlsen saying it's underrated, so really pick your poison in that sense. It's just personal preference. Don't put too much stock into Hikaru, don't put too much stock into Magnus. Like, they're super GMs. Their perspective is very different to ours. I mean, like, what on earth? We can't put too much stock in that. Rook over to e1. Already, I'm just up 2 points of material, and it's like, what are you doing? And after this move, knight to f4, I just pick up the knight with my queen, and my opponent resigns. So, again, guys, this is at 1500 elo, all these games. At no point am I earning my advantage. It's just being given to me. Please, please, please learn your openings, because if you just learn your openings, you're going to be gifted wins where your opponents aren't playing the proper theory and just getting much worse positions because of it. So definitely learn the Caro-Kann. Okay, guys, coming in at number 1, the moment you've all been waiting for, of course. We have the Ponziani opening, okay? And a lot of you wouldn't even have heard of this opening, which is why I'm urging you all to learn this theory, okay? No matter what elo you're at. Because it is so rare that your opponent is going to know the proper theory to play against the Ponziani. It is such an aggressive opening, so one slip up from black can literally mean checkmate. It starts with e4 and e5, so we've all been here before, nothing too new. Knight f3, knight c6, again we've all been here. And in this position, if you're white, you actually play the move c3. Which looks a little bit slow. It looks a little bit, you know, passive. It's like, what are we really doing here? But it's actually not, because we are going to override the center of the board here, and it is just going to be an absolute demolition job, okay? We're preparing this move d4 in the Ponziani, so we have a pawn on e4 and d4, and you might be wondering, hang on, what if the opponent plays knight to f6? Because then when we play d4, can't they just take this pawn? And things get very scary for white, no? No, not at all. We still play d4 in this position. I'll just demonstrate to you guys what would happen if they did take this pawn. There are a number of lines, one of which being like, I don't know, like say like bishop to d3. So you instantly kick this knight away, and then you have ideas of playing d5 at some stage. So you're down a pawn, but you're going to gain so many developing tempos on black, and you're just going to absolutely crush them. So in this position, I don't know, the best move is actually d5, but then you can just pick up this pawn, for example, and then you've already won your pawn back. So it's like going down a pawn initially is not an issue at all. We still play d4. In this game, my opponent played the move e takes on d4, which is obviously a move, and then you play the move e5. You don't recapture this pawn right away. You want to gain a tempo on black, okay? You want to take space in the center and just suffocate your opponent, okay? So the knight, of course, has to move. They move to knight to d5, which is the best move, and then you recapture the pawn, okay? So you, at no point is going down a pawn in the Ponziani a bad thing, okay? Because you're going to win it back, and you're going to gain tempos in black, and you're going to put them in very uncomfortable positions. d6 is now the best move for black. I just played bishop c4, which is a developing move, very natural looking. Bishop e6 is played, again a very normal looking move. And then I short castle. So everything so far is all very normal theory. This is what you play at sort of a high level in the Ponziani. They develop their bishop, preparing short castling. I then take, they take back, and then I develop my knight attacking the center. They take, and then I take back. So as you can see, I have a very active queen, a very active knight, and a great center, and it's very difficult for black here. They take the pawn, I recapture, and when they take here, this is actually given as a mistake, because I can put my queen anywhere on the e-file, and I'm going to have significant pressure on this black king. They go to knight c6. Best move here is actually rook to d1, but I played this move rook to e1. You want to attack the queen first, apparently. They short castle. I then slide my queen over, just looking to put pressure. Maybe have ideas of playing like bishop h6 at some stage. They play bishop to f6. I then play knight to e4, attacking this bishop. This is a bit of a miss because I can take the bishop with check first. They recapture, and then I slide my queen back. They move their knight. I just develop my bishop, potentially looking to play bishop c3, setting up this double attack, which looks very scary. Rook f8. I then play bishop to c3, and it looks very scary for black. Obviously, with perfect play, this is still just a draw. But you can see out the opening, we had such a big advantage. That's my mistake for not converting it in the middle game. No issue on the opening there. We had a monster center, way more developed than black. And black wasn't playing it perfectly because no one really knows the proper theory for the Ponziani unless you're a super high level. They play queen to h6, and then I can just take this pawn for free. And after the move rook e7, which is just a huge blunder, my opponent resigns. So again, guys, I showed you 5 games in all 5 openings whereby... And also, I'll just show you why this is a blunder, just in case anyone doesn't know. I can just take this rook, and when they take back, obviously my queen can take, so I'm just up in exchange. And black has no like counterplay of like back rank mate or anything, because, well, I just take. So yeah, guys, I showed you 5 openings, 5 games with each opening, whereby at no point did I really have to earn my advantage. There was no crazy moves, was there? It was just about knowing your opening theory. And it sets you up positionally to just go on and win the game. Even if it's the most minor slight advantage, as long as you're comfortable and you know the position, chances are your opponent will make a mistake, and that's when you can pounce. So guys, definitely recommend learning all 5 of these openings. I have separate videos on my channel whereby I go more in depth into the theory, so definitely check those out. But guys, without further ado, I'm going to leave you guys to it. Like, subscribe, comment down below. I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.